Yeah, we have just exited our second session to right now. So we are about to start the new. So I guess people are still trying to grasp some air before we can start.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just sharing my screen to get it all up and running.
Okay, I see that. You see that. Yes. Can you just give us some few, I think just 2 minutes before we could start. And that Manak, can you hear me? Manak?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I've heard that there are some comments on Facebook. I don't know how we can get hold of that. Can you help me with that?
I'm going to send them on the platform on this Zoom so that you can read them. Or I'm going to share you the link to our Facebook page so that you can read the comments.
Oh, the link I have it. I try to navigate around. I'm not good with social media, so I'm sorry about that. I tried to navigate around it and I couldn't find where I can find those questions. That's why I need your help on that.
All right, I'll copy them and then paste them on the question and answers.
Okay, Nada, thank you.
Messi, how are we going to do? I see Craig is already putting in his how long is he going to take?
Yes, that I'm going to take you through that. Craig will be the one to present, and then it will be you and Tata Matosa. We are having 15 minutes by the speakers. Yes, that. Then from there, the questions will follow.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ndadi.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think maybe we could start because I've heard that these sessions are being broadcasted on Facebook and on the virtual expo platform. So I think we are good to go. Yes, let me start by introducing myself. Myself is Ziendo Rotodi. I am from Business Doctors. Business Doctors, it's a business coaching, mentoring, and management consulting firm. It's an international enterprise that started in the UK and ventured along the globe. So earlier on, when we had media who did our opening remarks as we started on the first session. So I guess for us, we'll just take the cruise from here. So I guess the theme for today is studying, managing, and growing a business. And on the initial topic of the session, we are looking into why do startups fail? What can entrepreneurs use strategic planning and innovation to grow their business? That's where you're coming in to come and help us how we can mitigate that. So I think on this moment, I'll start you by Dr. Craig to introduce yourself and your industry. And I think you'll take us through with the question of why do startup fails and how can the entrepreneur use strategic planning and innovation to grow their business? Can I give you the platform, Dr. Craig, and welcome to this platform.
Thank you very much, May, and Dumalang Bonme and Lentate. Thank you very much for the opportunity for today to discuss this very important topic with you. I think the important thing for us today is to really understand what are the fundamental pillars of why we are struggling as startups to move forward. So my background has been 17 years in financial services and the last 20 years with DPI as a global consulting institution. And primarily we're there to help any organization critically think about their business and how they're looking to go forward. And Dr. Safika said earlier that many businesses are started by operators like technicians or admin people who do not really have the business experience. And so the problem is that we don't know what we don't know when it comes to putting our businesses together. So what I'd like to do is to turn this question around. How can entrepreneurs use strategic planning and innovation to grow their business? to say or ask, how can entrepreneurs use strategic thinking and innovation to grow their businesses? And the reason why I want to turn this question around is because both aspects are important, but one precedes the other. And so I want to have a look at what's the difference between, from a strategic perspective, what's the difference between planning and thinking. So from a planning perspective, it's very quantitative in and its approach. You know, we put spreadsheets together and we do forecasts and we sort of lay out a step-by-step approach as to how we're going to do things. Whereas thinking is of a qualitative nature. You can't really pinpoint because it's all in our minds. It's about what we're thinking. So planning extrapolates projections of current products and markets into the future, where thinking is the framework to decide what our wealth engine is going to be in terms of what we're going to offer, who we're going to sell it to, and where we're going to find critical mass to drive the turnover. Planning is bottom up, where thinking is top down. Thinking is saying, what do we want to be? Where do we want to see ourselves in the future? And then the planning is, how are we going to get there? What do we need to do on a day-to-day basis? Planning is usually optimistic. You know, if I look at organizations' budgets and, you know, these sort of revenue projections, very optimistic. But in thinking, it's the guide to where we should be spending more time and effort or less time and effort. And that's a very important aspect that we need to consider when it comes to thinking. Planning is inflexible because once we've set the budget, it is what it is, and we need to deliver against it. Where thinking is responsive to change. As things change, we review where we are, how we're going to approach things, and we move forward. Planning uses mostly internal data because we've gathered this information and then we extrapolate it, where thinking uses both internal and external information or data on a day-to-day basis. So both aspects are clear, but you cannot plan unless you've done some very clear thinking and decided what it is that you're wanting to do. So even the gurus agree with us. Mintzberg said that strategic planning has impeded strategic thinking. And the reason for this is because we continue to fall back into our routine, the things that keep us comfortable, filling in these spreadsheets, and we just think there's no time for thinking because we just have to do. And that's where the problem comes in. Even if we take 5 minutes of thinking, it's going to help us so much down the line in terms of that. So one of the things that what we say is we need to stop worshiping at the altar of planning. And we need to find a balance between both thinking and planning. And if we don't know what we don't know, then how do we apply our thinking? And it's important for us to be able to get out of our comfort zones and to challenge ourselves. And recently, I hosted a strategic thinking leadership forum with chief executives from different sized businesses, different industries. And I said to them, when you have all these wonderful good intentions to move out and to go and have your strategic sessions, what does your agenda look like? And this is what they came up with. You know, the first day is really the opening and welcome and expectations. And then we have a guest speaker or motivational speaker. Then we review past performance, insights, you know, and we can go through this entire agenda. But all it does is it results in a talking head session. Everyone's saying, well, this is what we're going to do, or how we see we're going to do things. And it doesn't really allow us that opportunity to just sit back and really challenge where we're at and where we want to be in the future. And you can't really drive innovation from a telling environment. But the objective is that we are looking to grow and innovate. So at most of these sessions, we have this expectations that we want to find how we're going to grow as a business. And that growth is not always evident. And we need to find ways to just sit back and ask ourselves and to debate where we think, so we can have a meeting of minds in the business. Because until we do so, we're going to be at loggerheads with each other in terms of saying, well, we think this, we think that, because we're not getting that clarity. And it's important in standing back that we see the bigger picture of where the opportunities may be in the market space for us to grow as an organization. And one thing that we know is that a winning strategy will always deliver sustainable and exceptional growth for any organization out there. But to get there, you need to have some thinking in place. And what we know, and from my experience, is that that winning strategy already resides in the heads of the people in the organization. And we need to find a way to really unleash that knowledge and know-how of where that great strategy sits within the people's minds. So we say that strategic thinking is a process that goes on in the heads of the CEO and the key management, or the entrepreneur and his key people, when they attempt to articulate the vision and translate that into a profile of what they want their business to become. So what we're really saying there is to say, let's sit back and say, in 5 years from now, what do we see our business looking like? What's that picture? What's that vision that we have going forward? So the key things really here is that it's a thinking process, and it's the head of the people within the organization to put together what that profile is. Unfortunately, we are hit by obstacles on an ongoing basis in order to put this picture together. And the main obstacle to good strategic thinking is operational bias, because each one of us as operators in the business come to these strategic sessions from a different perspective. The financial director will say, if it wasn't for me and my team, we wouldn't be profitable because we are out there to collect the money. The sales guys will say, well, if it wasn't for us, we wouldn't have the product sales. So we are the most important in the business. And yeah, we can have those discussions, but at the end of the day, we need to get to a position where we get agreement through strategic thinking on where we as an organization see ourselves moving forward. So a couple of questions that I'd just like to put out there to the guys this morning is, so how do we develop the strategy that will cause us to survive and thrive in times of change? What industry or market segments are we playing in, and what will these look like in the next 5 to 7 years? What are the game rules in our industry and market segments, and what are the opportunities for us to change those game rules? What is our own DNA or our company's driving force? And what should it be in the future? What should be driving the decisions in our business on a day-to-day basis?
Craig?
Yeah.
Craig, can you just excuse me? Ndate Manara, can you please let Ndate Matosa in? He's waiting for the host to let him in. Ndate Manara, are you there?
Okay, I'm going to resend the invitation link again, or he may check the email on the spam folder.
Yeah, yes, just
yes.
It says awaiting the host to let him in.
Let me check.
Okay. Ndate Craig, you can continue that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So these are key questions that one has to answer with regard to your business in terms of formulating this picture of what your business is going to be in the future. Because we need to find ways to change the game, because we can't play the game the same way. We just look at Ubers and we look at Airbnb, how they've changed the game in their different industries. And so how do we change the game? Well, we can turn a unique strength that perhaps somebody out there has into a unique weakness and find a different way of doing things. We can change so many rules in our industry that it's nearly impossible for any other competitor to react or respond in terms of what it is that we're trying to deliver from a services perspective. Or we change how customers buy or how companies compete in the market space. So those are ways that we need to interrogate the ability to play the game differently in the industry. So what's next? We've had a very difficult year. So if we look at beyond 2020, what is it that we have to be dealing with? Well, there's so many issues that we have to deal with. We've got changing regulations, policies, and legislation. We heard earlier about the hunt from talent from some of the speakers, the malaise of the economy, and especially now with the amount of money that governments have made available to help the citizens of countries. the technology wonderland, just this session shows us how we've changed. Because we would have been at a conference in Lesotho, and now we're sitting all over the world using technology. Stakeholder activism is playing a part in our thinking, the drive for growth, as I said earlier, and this future competitive arena are all aspects that planning doesn't resolve unless you've taken time out to think. And then let's just add, a little pandemic into the scheme of things, just to make our lives a little bit more difficult. So within that, we've got to find our position. We've got to find our thoughts. We've got to find how we're going to go forward from that perspective. And we need to find and enable our businesses to have conversations that we've never had, and to consistently and repeatedly outthink the other guys. And strategy follows structure. So we've got to make sure that the strategy is right, and that we then are able to structure the business going forward. And drive consistency. From a strategic thinking perspective, we need...
Excuse me, Ntate Morapedi.
Yeah,
Can you mute your microphone, please? We can hear you.
Okay, so when we're thinking about our business, and from a strategic thinking perspective, we've got to ask ourselves, how do we control the game? How do we make conscious choices as to what we're going to do and what we're not going to do? How do we leverage the cohesion within our business, but also in terms of how we cooperate with other organizations out there? And then how do we unleash creativity and innovation from that perspective? And the key thing is we've got to try and do it keep it pure and simple, because we have to make critical decisions to mitigate risk. That's really what strategy is about, is how do we mitigate the risk within our business and within our market? And in order to do so, we need to analyze choices, because it's about resource allocation. We either have to preserve resources that we have, or we need to invest in new resources that we need for the future. And secondly, how do we choose opportunities for growth? If we don't, we may lose out to somebody else, or we have to be the ones that find the new opportunities for us to grow our business. Now, in order to do that and to answer those two questions, we have to go through a judgment process. So in that way, we're using information, experience, and expertise of the people in the business, putting it through this thinking methodology and getting to a point where we can make the best balanced choice as to how we're going to go ahead moving forward. And in that way, it's all about challenging ourselves. It's not challenging the external environment. It's about challenging our attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, norms, and practices, because we've all been shaped by our experience and our past. And the important thing is, how do we find the opportunity by challenging ourselves to disrupt the rules of the game in our industry and to disrupt the game itself at the end of the day? Because we need to move away from incrementality. That's what planning does. It's incremental. We're going to go from this to this to this to this to this, and really say, well, how do we find transformational growth? How do we really find the opportunities to grow the organization? And where are the opportunities for growth? Well, it is around new products and services, serving new customers, expanding geographically, or even acquisitions. Or mergers and acquisitions play a role. And this is where creativity and innovation starts to play a role. But that's not the only place. We also need to look at our business model. How do we operate? And say, how within these parts of our business model can we find new ways of doing things to drive creativity and innovation? I'm not going to spend too much time here on the growth grid, but it's important that we understand that if we have a very clear strategy, clear set out action plans, the resources to be able to do it, getting senior management's buy-in to the whole process, the skills and the incentives and the governance structures, growth will come. So if we don't have a strategy, we have confusion. If we don't have action plans, we have a false start. If we don't have resources, we cause frustration in the business. If we don't have senior management buy-in, we have stagnation. If we don't have the skills and capabilities, we create anxiety in the business. And a couple of speakers spoke about that earlier in earlier presentations. If we don't have incentive schemes, we have slow growth. And if we don't have the governance structures in place, we have slippage. So the key thing is finding what is our driving force. Discovering your driving force means accepting the differentiating factors that focus your ideas, your resources, and your team towards the growth of your business. So the DNA of your strategy is all about, it's the root of deciding about your wealth engine, what products, customers, and markets that we're going to focus on. Determining your areas of excellence that you must develop to extend and defend the gap between yourselves and competitors. It's the foundation on how you compete and grow as an organization. And it provides clarity on how you're going to allocate resources. You have to decide where you're going to play. You cannot be all things to all people. You may need to choose your sandbox, where you're going to box. And once you've done that, you need to say, well, what is the sandbox or business arena going to look like in the next 5 to 7 years from now? What are the trends that are driving the industry in a specific direction where I'm playing? And paint this picture of what it will look like 5 to 7 years from now. Because then you can seek the space that you're going to control. What is the space? What are the rules? Who are the players? What are the attitudes? Who sets the rules? Because wherever you play, somebody is controlling the game. Who is it? Why do they have the control? So we say disrupt yourself before somebody else disrupts you. And Dr. Safika said earlier, you cannot teach someone how to fly if you haven't learned to fly yourself. And this is the important thing, is how can we disrupt ourselves to be a better competitive offer in the markets that we operate? So you need to take ownership and design your own dream house and what's it going to look like. So high-performing companies are able to first paint the desired aspirational strategic outcome. What's the vision? What's the thinking behind it? And what's our final profile of what we're going to look like? And then the how. How are we going to write the plan in terms of our critical issues, our operational plans, our annual budgeting plans, and so forth. So you need to use a proven process and expert facilitation that gives you structure, discipline, rigor, and focus for your strategic discussions so that you can put this winning strategy together that outperforms your peers in the good times and the not so good times. It creates and controls the space that you can call your own. You can dictate the pace of innovation within your sandbox, and through disciplined execution supported by excellent operational frameworks and skills, you're able to move forward and avoid being shaped by these external forces. You know, even your customers, the demands that they make on your business on a day-to-day basis. So what's the outcome that you're looking for?
Dr. Craig, I think I have to be conscious about time.
Yeah, I'm just wrapping up.
Yes, please.
Okay. So you need to ensure that you have a very clear, agreed, and inspiring strategic profile, and then the how. Explicit, complete, measurable set of critical issues and action plans so that you have clarity of direction, you have focus within the organization, you have consensus in the management team that this is the way we're going to go forward, you have that commitment to a common vision, you have that cohesion, the glue that keeps the organization together, and you can synchronize your resources ongoing, hitting the bullet on an ongoing basis. So Mia spoke earlier about it's all about starting with a dream. We need to get that excitement, but then we need to make use of the tools that are available for us to seek out the opportunities. We have to think these through, make a decision, look at innovation, and drive the business success. Business is a journey, and so we're all looking for that successful outcome of the journey, and strategic thinking and innovation is the way to do that. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk this morning.
Thank you very much, Ndeta. I think you have well presented it. I think I like the idea of strategic thinking very much. I realized that, I'm sorry about my microphone, let me do this. I've realized that right now in Lesotho, we are trying to adopt the style of using strategic thinking, design thinking, incorporating them in our capacity building when we deliver the trainings. So I think you have raised a very essential point, which goes back to what, like you're saying, Dr. Hasipep said, that how do you know that you've got the right people with the right mindset? So I think strategic thinking, that's where with the with the medication of it, that's where it started design thinking. And I remember there's another new course that is called Future Studies, where you can foresee the future. Is sort of a prediction. It helps you to map the future going forward. And even though it's partial truth, because there could be unseen circumstances like COVID right now that it hit us so hard, but at least you'll be in the right position to say, I have planned for the future. And so thank you so much. That I think that teaching, that education has been very, very essential. And I believe our viewers has very delighted, very appreciating it a lot. And I think I'll come back to you. We have 2 guest speakers who are still in the pipelines right now.
100%.
Yes, I'll pass to Ntate Khan. Ntate Khan, how are you?
I'm finding you.
I'm good. I'm good. Yes.
Let me just get my
Yes.
my presentation.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
I think to introduce to our viewers out there, Ntate Khan is a managing partner at RL Consulting. So that I think you'll take it there to tell our viewers who you are, our audience, but what's your background in the industry, and how can you help? How can you advise on why the startups fails? The strategies that you could come up with to mitigate this problem that we are saying is there. We see it each and every day. Businesses, startup businesses are failing. So today, I think I could give you the platform. I don't know if you want to share anything, or you just took through it.
I'll just go through. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my. Okay, there you are.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think
I'm speaking from.
Sorry, we just have 15 minutes. No, I was just highlighting the point that we still have 15 minutes. We only have 15 minutes because we still add another presenter to come in.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking from, and I'm very happy for what Craig has presented, and also his reference to the former speakers who greatly highlighted very, very important issues. I'm speaking from a point of a business advisor, having been involved in a number of MSMEs, in particular those in the medium and large family businesses. And I think my talk is more or less trying to address issues along that line. But I really want to start with why business fail. I've looked into a number of reports why business fail. And one thing that struck me very well, and that's not about Lesotho, it's about the US. It said 70% of MSMEs never see the 3rd anniversary. That is to say, yeah.
Oh, I see the slide. Good.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, are you referring to the slide so I can see that? Yes, it's the slide.
Yes. And they never see their 3rd anniversary. And I've also tried to research to find out why businesses fail. And in the Google and other search engines, you find a number of reasons, 20 reasons why business fail, 15 reasons why business fail. And I've tried to look into that and also look at from my experiences as a practitioner. And I've tried to group them into 4 groups. One, the use of financial capital. One main reason is a lot of businesses don't have financial strategy. People go into business, they have no idea how they are going to use their finances properly. In fact, number one, the access to finance, the cost of finance, and the expected reward on the financial capital they put in place. So it's often a bigger problem of organizations. And sometimes they would be going on a very long-term project where the returns are expected to come out, say 10 years down the line, and they go and ask for short-term financing. It runs short. They are in a big problem. They don't know where to get the other funding. Or sometimes they go into a project that will say it will require 5 million and they only have 1 million and they think that, you know, as we go forward, somehow I'll find ways of getting 3 million and going forward. So quite a number of businesses are either financed in a very costly manner or financed in a wrong way. There's a timing issue, that is, they ask for short term to finance the long term. And that's where the problem is. So the issues around finance are quite a serious issue. In fact, one survey that was done was that the biggest contributor to business fail is more on finance than any other thing. But still speaking about finance, there is an issue of financial management as well, how you manage your finances. And in a number of cases, you find that entrepreneurs just look at, I have my accountant in place. Accounting is simply to put record and be able to see how much I've made. But finance goes beyond that. It actually says, have you invested your money in the right place? Are you getting the right returns on the business units that you are investing in? I found one of my clients had about 4 revenue streams, 4 different strategic business units. And he was declaring profits year from year to year. And we only found out that it is only one strategic business unit that is actually making money. And the rest of other strategic business units are either just making up or actually making a loss. So financial management goes beyond just keeping the records. It's actually saying, where am I making my money? And what kind of returns on investment am I making? Can I put the same money somewhere else and make more money out of that? And in fact, most of the times you find that entrepreneurs think we can handle that, but you really need assistance in this area. Financial management, financial strategy, it's one area that is very, very complex. And it is important to make sure that you get it right, because if it is the contributor to a majority of business failures, it just shows how important it is. And like I said, it goes far beyond pure accounting. It goes into the actual way of investing. It actually goes into the way you manage your cost. And you certainly need a business advisor to help you in that area. One area of failure lies with what I call process capital. And in terms of processes, number one, I'm picking up the business model itself. And you realize that the business model is failing. Someone started and said, I'm going to make money this way. And along the way, either they're not consistent with that way of making money. Ideas come in from time to time. One thing that I've realized with MSMEs is they like the word hustling. We are hustling. And money is taken from one place, it's used in different ways. They read something about on Google or get a message on TV, they move from time to time. And eventually the business model that was contained in the business plan fails and they lose. And sometimes within the processes, capital is inadequate business processes. You find an organization is running the way it wants, and the entrepreneur comes in and picks up that one money. The next day, he authorizes one payment one way or the other. There are no systems that are clear there which need to be followed to make sure that the procurement is well done, the financial side is well done, the human resources management is well done, there are proper processes for doing everything. The procurement is properly done. So at the end, when you fail on your business processes, you bring in a lot of risks, and there are challenges in terms of compliances, and what eventually happens is the business goes down. And even in the area of process capital, one area that I found is what I call operational waste. That is to say that there is a lot of wastages in a way things are being done. Your operations are not effective, and if anything, they are not even efficient. And a lot of cost is wasted in the way you do things. I often encourage that organizations should quickly move to automation, because you still see a lot of business people either doing things on a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, or a lot of things manually. And the impact of that is you have a lot of people that are employed and a lot of money is being wasted, or sometimes even customer satisfaction is affected because of the way you do things. And sometimes everything has to be approved by the entrepreneur himself, and nothing moves. And you find there are no proper systems that are in place, no structures that are in place to make sure that work gets done with the entrepreneur is there or not. So this often leads into what I call operational waste, and it's a common problem within the MSME sector. The other challenges that lead to business failures are summarized in what I call human capital failures. And here, especially if you look into the family business, you realize that the quality of staff is compromised because people have employed their cousin number 1 and cousin number 15, their nephew number 4, and their niece number 16. And the whole business becomes where every member of the family makes money. And oftentimes the quality is not appropriate. It's often better that you take your own money and help your cousin, your niece, your granny and other, rather than bring them into the business and without necessarily having an appropriate quality and quality skills. And at the end, the business goes down. So the issue of getting the quality, the right people is very important. In fact, one writer says, Jim Collins, I think, you need to take people out of the bus and then start taking them into the bus and putting them in the right positions. Because let me tell you, if there's one factor that can actually kill any business, it's the people that are in the organization. I've just spoken about quality. It goes beyond quality. The other factor is the quantity. You find in a number of MSMEs, especially when they move from small to medium, there's so many people, and entrepreneurs become proud to say that I have 100 people that work for me, 200 people that work for me. And oftentimes it's not even clarified who does what. And there's always a conflict that rises as a result of that. And there's a lot of cheating that goes along with that. And it leads into a failure. You need to have the right quality, whether you're related to them or not. And to get the right quality certainly says you need to pay the right amount of money. Oftentimes, one of the reasons of getting the low quality of people is because we think the right ones are expensive. But go ahead and employ low quality people and you will realize that you have a problem. Go ahead and employ a big quantity of people. And you realize when the business is not doing well and you have to do retrenchments, there's a massive number of people. And with all the industrial actions taking place, it creates a bad reputation for your organization. So staffing is very, very critical. And you must also come up with a proper structure. One important issue, especially with the medium size of the MSME group, it's the succession. You need to know who is going to follow who after what. I've seen a number of organizations started by business people, and when they die, the business dies with them. And we have an expression in Lesotho that says, that is, the business dies as the owner dies. And that's false. It's mostly because the issue of succession is not addressed properly. And the number 4 cause of business failures is about markets and customers. Poor market and customer segmentation. You need to know who your customer is. It's not everybody who comes in that you want to do business is. And you have to have clear characteristics of your market. Know that I particularly serve a certain market, and I have developed competencies and capabilities to serve that kind of market. These are my customers, and these are not my customers. And be sure that you have achieved excellence in the particular market and customer segmentation, and serve them, and they get satisfied before you could even move anywhere else. So these 4 groupings more or less highlight the reasons why 70% of the MSMEs never see their 3rd anniversary. And one important thing, and here I want to talk about slightly about strategy. It's important to strategize. And strategy is not just developing a document, binding it well, and that's it. Yes, strategy is a plan, but it starts from being a perspective. A perspective is, where do you see your business? And I think that's why what Craig spoke about strategic thinking. Because a strategic plan that is not based on strategic thinking, it's not a plan at all. There are 3 areas that are very important: strategic thinking, strategic planning, and strategic execution. If any one of them is poor, everything else is poor. So you start with your perspective. You develop a plan that addresses your perspective, and you position yourself. And because you can't be everything to everyone, you position yourself, and then you create a pattern of behavior. This is how we will do things here. And you connect your strategic strategies with your culture, so that we all know your strategic plan, even if we haven't read it, because we see the way people are conducting themselves, and we know that this is how you run your business. Otherwise, you'll have a document that is useless. And one thing that you need to understand is your strategic role as an entrepreneur changes. An employee, the volume of activities is massive. As you get self-employed, you have people that work with you. But you need to move to an employer where you only deal with value-adding issues and not operations. I think, as Dr. Speaker said and highlighted by Craig, is that most people get into business as technicians, and they want to stay technicians the rest of their life. They don't want to move, employ people, and spend time on strategic issues, small issues, but highly strategic. So you need to position yourself properly, and so that your business can grow. Because the more you spend time with the mechanics, the less your business. You remain self-employed rather than being an employer yourself. And if you're not an employer, you're not an entrepreneur. So spend time on the values rather than the volumes. And let me say, business fail. Oftentimes they start high, and I'm trying to take a hockey stick here. They start high and fall. And if you see the joint end, where they fall, they never rise. So you need to understand who you are, the size of your business, what capabilities you have, what competencies you have, and you need to understand the industry in which you are situated in, the geographical place you are situated in, and look at the trends that are taking place. Currently, there are trends that relate to technology. And if you can now take the tailwind of technology, you're finished. There are trends that talk about digitalization. You need to understand your situation very well and look at what are the trends in the industry, what are the trends in the environment in which I am doing my business. And am I taking an advantage of those trends, or am I allowing those trends to go away? Because if you allow them to go away, then you are finished. And decide on the big moves that you want to take. One writer talks about the big moves, and he says one of them is mergers and acquisitions. I've decided to say strategic alliances. See, which people do I want to join with so that I can succeed? We need to be able to live from a point of where you think alone you can survive. You need other people. joint ventures. You need to understand your value chain. You need to look at possible franchises that you can work with and be able to leverage from those franchises or strategic alliances and go forward. Once you have decided on the move, resource allocation is very important. Put your resources at your biggest move and avoid hustling. Just 30 seconds to finish this.
Okay.
And invest your money where your biggest move is. And sure, you remove the waste, the processes, and make sure that you are different from everybody else. Find a way of differentiating. Don't copy. Don't be a carbon copy, but be the original and stick on your originality. And if you stick on your originality, then people will choose you because they know you are different. I wish to thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Dade. Thank you very much. I think that was very insightful learnings from you, Dade. I think I like the point that you mentioned when you're about to finish, when you talk about the leaders, that how they conduct themselves. They are not aware that the way they conduct themselves is the way that people view them, is the way that we see when we see their strategy. They tend to take for granted 4 elements of how they view others, how they view their work, how they view the environment, external environment in terms of leadership, that it plays a vital role into how we perceive them. So I think that was very powerful and profound. And you talked about the funding. I like the way you started this when you talked about the short of funding, and when you talked about the business process in terms of the capabilities to deliver the production of the business. You talked about job positioning and succession plan, that they need to be in place. So I think you have highlighted so much that and very vital points in terms of building business and things that people can sometimes overlook them that day. So I think I think that we are very, very, very much grateful for the learnings of today. Just want to take this moment to rush to Ndate Matlosa. I could see he's already there. I was worried I couldn't see him in my panel, so I could see that now he has just joined. Ndate Matlosa, how are you, Ndate?
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. John Matrosa. While we do the introduction, may I ask Ndate Khan to stop sharing so that I could take over the screen?
Yes, Ndate Khan, can you just stop sharing your screen? Are you still there?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ndate. Ndate Matlosa, you can take us through Ndate and introduce yourself, and please advise us on this big issue of the session of why do startup fails, Ndate, and what kind of strategies that we can use to try to close these gaps.
Thank you, Mayor, and hi again to everyone. My name is John Matlosa from Sky Business Inc. We are primarily a business incubation business focusing on developing entrepreneurs. My two colleagues have adequately addressed the issue of why they fail. I think we can elaborate further on that as we take questions. But again, I think the question of strategy has actually also been adequately addressed. If there's anything else, we'll add later. But I thought at this juncture, it will be important just to move into innovation, and hopefully my tone and what I present will be something that will make sense to an MSME, because as you've heard from my two colleagues, they've referred to, strategy is about thinking and not just a document. And so, as we think, we use various models that help us, direct our way of thinking. Now, to start off, I thought it is important just to bring everyone at least to the same level in terms of what innovation, and Merriam-Webster describes it as a new idea, a device, or method the act or process of introducing new ideas, devices, or methods. So the word innovation itself comes from the Latin word in and novare, meaning to take new. So as entrepreneurs, we know why we fail, and we know the importance of strategy. And the next step is, as we execute, how can we execute? What tools can we use? So I thought I'll focus on that. Again, Wikipedia says innovation is a new idea, more effective device or process. So you can understand, you appreciate from this definitions that the way to come out of a hole is really to think outside the box and to look at ideas. So there are strategic ways of going about it. And just to mention that, innovation happens at 3 levels. It could be at the operational level where you focus on, the product, the process, or at the technical level where you focus on, the market position, where are you, you want to change, you want to grow. And the main one is really at a strategic level. And I think for the purposes of this presentation, we'll focus on, this one of strategic innovation, which is really about, disrupting our business models. And I thought, it might help us just to have an appreciation of, so what are some of the changes that we are seeing in terms of innovation in the world, and, some of the successes that we've called success that seem to be good, but at the end of the day, we know they are dying. For example, we used to know that, we used to think that Google owns, when you talk of search engine, it's now Google, but, that is changing. As the US is pushing Huawei out of the market, they're thinking, all right, how do we develop our own? So you see mobile operators, you see cell phone manufacturers coming up with their own search engines. If you own an iPhone, you know that you use a Safari and not Google. So that says that your business might look like a success, and that is the challenge with a lot of us, Lesotho, in the sense that we tend to follow the crowd. So if one person owns 4+1, that's all we can think. Years back, I know there was popcorn machines. Everyone had one. So, so we need to think, what is it that everyone is doing today, and how do I ensure that I don't fall in the same trap? Think of Facebook. Now people no longer go to Facebook for information. They no longer to go to Google for information. They go to Facebook. And the research says 1 billion people search information on Facebook every day. So, how do we use this as a platform for, opportunity for us to grow? LinkedIn, as an entrepreneur, are you on LinkedIn? What is your activity there? What are you saying? What presence do you have? So these are some of the things that, you start doing in order to position yourself to compete differently in the market. One big thing, all of us will go about, I want to develop a website. I want to develop a website. I want to develop a website for my company. But it's very few of us that are thinking that when you are on a cell phone, and when you look for information, 90% of the time you use your cell phone and you go through an app. So have we ever thought to say, how do I develop an app for my business? So it's some of the things. And if you look at some of the businesses that have made it big, it's through developing apps. So just be aware that people are no longer going to apps anymore. People are no longer going to home pages anymore. They are going into apps because it's the new thing. Now, there are various models that could be used for to direct our thinking around innovation. The most famous one is the blue ocean. And we all know blue ocean is referred to as seeking those new opportunities, going where others haven't gone. The red ocean, if you think of red ocean in our context, red ocean is yes, ma'am.
Yes, you're not sharing, I get. Are you sharing?
I am sharing.
Yeah, sharing.
Yes.
You haven't shared that we are still seeing you.
Let me go back.
Yeah, I could see that you are looking at the screen, so I thought maybe you're sharing. So I must make you aware that it doesn't appear on our side.
I will. Can you see
Now
it
you're
now?
sharing. But you can continue, Tati. I think you have highlighted so much important roles, and we have had exactly.
Yeah. So just in a few seconds, just to see what I've been through. All right. So I was just on these models to see, what, as we pursue innovation, what models can we use? And the famous one is Blue Ocean, and it's about looking for new opportunities, looking for areas where there's very few operators. Red Ocean, this is about going into an area. This is a crowded area, but you go into that business to maybe on a low cost, on a pricing differentiation. If you look at just the people like Lepema, they move into cement. It's already a crowded market with a few dominant operators, and the only way to play in there is almost like it's price. So you can pursue that option to say, okay, fine, with the product that I have, where do I want to participate? Do I want to introduce a disruptive innovation? And one other model is, and this is just a few of them. One of them is Starfish model. If you think of, and the can just refer to this word of value chains. The definition of value chains is, where do I get my resources? Who is in the chain? Who's my upline? Who's my downline? So you have that relationship where you say, okay, fine, I am a supplier, so who will be my advertisers? Who will be my users? Who will be my customers? So you segment your market according to, this supply into your business. But as you will see in the next slide, that is changing. And the reason why it's changing is that, organizations now are starting to focus on the center to say, how do I pull all this? And with the advent of Internet of Things, big data, that is where businesses are starting to find growth. So instead of trying to say I'll be a supplier, you try to integrate all these areas to say okay, fine, how do I participate across? Look at example this companies, Rentecalo. They are the largest rental company, but owns no vehicles. How do they do that? Data. Uber, the world's largest taxi company, but owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, but creates no content. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, but has no inventory. And the last one, Airbnb, was referred to earlier by Craig, the world's largest accommodation provider, but owns no real estate. So you can tell that, growth is no longer about, owning things. It's about finding needs and pulling resources from those that own them. So, the big thing that we see in the market in Lesotho is definition of wealth is trucks. Now if I want to be successful, if I want to be defined as successful, I must own trucks. And we see lots of people investing in that kind of business, and so, but we can see that, slowly things are changing. People are moving from owning to being coordinators. So that is the future that, entrepreneurs could, pursue in terms of innovating their businesses in order to grow. Now, how can entrepreneurs use innovation to grow their business? One, and Gregor referred to this, do not accept market rules, because, if you do accept market rules, it means you conform and you stop seeing opportunities. Collaborate than compete. So don't try to don't try to own it and say, I'm in business because I own it. I just made reference to trucks. You can rent this thing. You can be a middleman. We talked about the starfish model. Pursue the center and instead of trying to be somewhere else. Create new markets. This is the blue ocean strategy. Create new users. Big data. This is the new growth. If you look at what is happening in Kenya, young people there are starting to focus on apps, on data-based offerings, which they are less investment, high risk in terms of success, but low in terms of investment. And if you make it, it's one area where, as a young person or as an MSME, you can pursue your growth. And differentiate between customers and users. You know that as a parent, you go into a shop, you buy yogurt, but the yogurt is not consumed by the parent, it's consumed by the children. So even as you design your product, you need to understand that you're right. At the end of the day, the person that decides on the use of my product or that consumes my product is the kid and not the parent. The parent might have the money, but really if the kid confirms that they like the product, then the parent will buy it. Now that's the differentiation between the customer and the user. And another one is experiment rather than pursuing professionalism in everything. So, and that's what is in the world of big data. You develop solutions and you take them to market, you see how they work, instead of waiting forever to say, let me get it right. Because, ideas are not copyrighted. If you have an idea and you're slow, somebody will pick it up and take it to market. You can't say it was my idea and therefore I have rights to it. If you didn't go to market quick enough because you wanted a perfect solution, you will not win. Now, the last one is, rethink your market from loyalty to empowerment. What do I mean by this? We are used to now the idea where you must have a clicks card, you must have a macro card, you must have a Fushini card, all those things are about loyalty. So they see how many times you're going to their store, where did you buy? Right now, if I go into Woolworths and log onto their Wi-Fi, they will tell me the last time I was in the Woolworths and which store and which province, So that's loyalty, but really, what is empowerment? What are they doing to ensure that I can make decisions that attract me to their business? So it's one of the things we need to be thinking as entrepreneurs to say, all right, in my business line, how am I empowering my customers to consume my product? Pursue efficiency, pursue intelligence and not efficiency, because we've grown up to say, okay, let's be patient. Let's if it's, we must be efficient. You must be efficient. But we know that, people like Bill Gates, they thrived on intelligence because they looked for something that wasn't there and created a solution that and the world now can live without, from low cost to no cost. And so, the age of owning it is almost gone. You almost need to work on collaboration. From ownership to access, the same thing. It's no longer about owning things. You need to be able to access these things. And, access means that your cost of capital is cheaper. It means that your ability to exceed a market if the product is not successful are easier. Now, if we talk about disruptive innovation, I just wanted to remind you, those that are old enough, if you think of Kodak, there's a case study that says they were the first ones that came up with a digital camera. But because they were so successful in that area, they felt, no, if they introduced the digital camera, their downline, their value chain will not be happy. So they shelved the idea. So it's one of the things you need to ask as your business is growing, to say, am I in a position to cannibalize my idea? In closing, this is what the world looked like in 2013. All these solutions: a computer, a cell phone, no, not a phone, a camera, a walkie-talkie, all those things, a Walkman, they used to be sold individually. And for 5,000, and this document says for 5,225, you would need to buy those individual products individually. Today, for $200, you find all those solutions in an iPhone. Now, that's disruptive innovation. And so disruptive innovation is what will set you apart from the rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndate. Thank you very well, very well articulated. Ndate. I like the synergy from Ndate Craig to Ndate Dikgang to you, Ndate Matlosa. Ndate Craig talked about strategic thinking, and Ndate Dikgang took us through with the 4 areas that we need to focus on. We shouldn't miss them in terms of when we focus into business. And now you're talking about innovation, where you are trying to advise the entrepreneur to be open-minded and to try to learn from other countries who have been doing this. We have the best models, the best practices. So I think that you have said it, and I love that synergy that went with the flow was very, very good. But I have a question which goes to the floor. I think the 3 of you that what are the first things or the basic things that we can say when the entrepreneurs, when they start business, they need to take into consideration those basic simple things that we say, this one are the must do, they need to take them into consideration, the basic ones for them to go. I think I'll start with you, Ndate Matlosa.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. We like to go into business because we follow a passion.
Yes.
And sometimes it's always important to know that passions don't pay bills. And there are times when we because we are so blinded by passion, even when the data says this is where the market is going, we will still pursue a passion despite the red flag. So that is one of the key things that I would say entrepreneurs need to be on the lookout for, especially for young people. If you think of it, so many young people like music. And so I've seen so many of them spend time saying, I'm doing my first single, 5 years later, still that single. That single hasn't paid the bills. So yeah, know when to move, when to move.
So they should be open-minded and know when to leave that business, or in terms of venture into other businesses.
Indeed, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ndate. And Ndate Craig?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to build on what Tate Matlosa said, in that, yes, we all have a passion. We all have something that we're wanting to do, but I think we've got to realize and acknowledge what we don't know, and to seek the assistance from others out there that have already walked the walk and have the experience of what not to do in order to be successful quickly as business owners and entrepreneurs. And sometimes, I think the key thing is that we don't acknowledge the fact that we don't know, or we're too proud to acknowledge the fact that we don't know. And because there's many things out there that we can use to make our businesses more successful. So I think for me, that's one of the key aspects, is to have that acknowledgement and to embrace other people that have wisdom. Absolutely. And then think continuously. We find too many senior executives are very operationally focused these days, and they are not applying the strategic thinking that they should, because it's all around the operations. It's all about the now. You have to take time out to think and to formulate your picture of where you want to take your business.
Yes, I think there's another point that Matlosa talked about collaboration that has been raised from previous sessions. I think that one is vital as well. It's been said on the first session that we had from 9 o'clock, and the second session, and this person. So I think it's a very, very, very important point to raise. Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Yes,
I'd like to
yes.
challenge that word of collaboration and to maybe say it's cooperation. Let's find the businesses that are out there, and how do we cooperate with each other to be successful?
Oh, that's nice, Nadine. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. I guess we are learning in here. It's a very insightful one. And Dr. Hang, are you still there, Dr.? Anything to add on that?
Yes, I think my colleagues have really highlighted important things. Let me just say that if you are going to take any journey, you need to plan. That's very important. So quite a number of entrepreneurs think of an idea and they immediately start. And you find that 1 month, 6 months, 2 years, they keep on changing their plans from time to time. You must be very clear, get your plan straight, spend time on that plan, and make sure you stress test the plan. And I think the next important thing is look at your business model. Obviously, your business model will be part of your plan, but I would like to say that you need to spend time on that business model. A lot of things are changing today. Technology is changing, and there's a lot of disruption taking place. And obviously, what used to be a good business model a year or 2 years ago may fail to be a business model now. And I think the last and final thing is know the people that will help you. It's very important. You can't go into business alone. A lot of growth now in many businesses, it's inorganic. It's through mergers and acquisitions. You would rather own 30% of a loaf of bread than 100% of a little village cake. I mean, what do you call it?
Cake.
Yes. I mean, oftentimes people want to own a fat cake, 100% of that fat cake, and rather than own, 20%, 30% of a loaf. You need people around to make sure that you drive forward. So don't think it alone. Together we can go far. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I think there's another point that Ndatile Khama has raised in the first, I think it was the second session or the first session I think when you talked about we should be open to take the criticism in a very positive way, a constructive criticism, to put ourselves in a rigorous spot where to be interrogated and to see that our ideas are very vital, are very, they have potential in terms of businesses. So I think that it's another very important point. Yes, I think that they've been said that I'll ask that Dr. Manari to hear if we have the questions, but from the chat here, I don't see something like that. The questions from our Facebook page, because we are going live. We are live on Facebook. But all being said, but that I think I loved your synergy. I love the flow of your presentations. It had a very good synergy, like I said before. And thank you very much for your insightful session. It was very, very insightful. It was very fruitful, and I believe our audience has learned so much, have gained so much knowledge out of this session. And right now, all I could tell you is that take a tour to the virtual expo and try to explore Lesotho products. Who knows, you might find something that could grasp your eyes over there. Thank you very much, and I believe together we can take country to a better place. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Pleasure and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.